Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about developing effective cybersecurity AI or artificial intelligence policy and procedures. And this is based on NIST CSF framework version 2. And this is another video from the VCISO series that I would like to present how the AI is being secured or how the policy around security of the AI has been developed. Okay, so better than I do, AI is an inevitable part of the business nowadays. There are some businesses that they're just moving away from the AI or try to stay away from it, but that's not the solution. Whatever you want to just protect or just eliminate, it comes back to you in another different way or shape or form, I would say. So blocking it is not a solution. So we have to just create rules and just governance strategy around usage of the AI. So NIST has got this template and it's got a structured, scalable approach to manage the risks around the AI. And one of the most important functions that is emphasized on is the govern. The govern is the key. That means you have to create rules around the AI. So first we have to just understand the risk. So there are two aspects of the AI. Is AI for cybersecurity or is cybersecurity for AI? In any shape, it has to be protected. We have to know and understand the AI. One may say, okay, how can I protect the Gemini, Copilot, or any of these vendor-based AIs or vendor-driven AIs? I would say the AI is just like a product. Sometimes it's off the shelf. You have to understand how does it manipulates and performs analysis on your data, right? So that's the most important part, that the businesses, they want to protect themselves from the rules that are just around the privacy and the important data that they don't want to be shared where they don't want to be shared. That's the most important part of it. So AI, so those products that we buy off the shelf, like Gemini, Copilot, or anything like even ChatGPT, they're just somehow patched and they got the policies themselves. But there are just a number of products out there that you want to just make sure you understand the risks. So the risk involved, some of the risks are data vulnerabilities, targeting sensitive AI training data sets. That means how the model is being trained. Where do they take the model, your data, to train the model and just make the model understand better? That's the important part of it. That you don't want that data to be exposed to where you don't want that the data to be exposed. So model exploitation. That means model could be manipulated and could be under attack, but adversarial. That so it provides you with the bias output, I would say. System dependencies. Sometimes the AI is exposed to some other systems, like it wants to just communicate through the API channels to produce data, do some analytics, or provide some outputs to some other data. Let's say there are some documents or legal documents. They just want to make sure this document is consistent with the policies. They just run the AI to just provide a draft to make sure all the items they're just aligning with the cybersecurity or the corporate policy. So we have to make sure while we're doing it, the sensitive data is being masked or is not really exposed, or if it's been worked on by the AI, is completely secure and safe in terms of where the data is going to be placed for the process or stored for the processing. Regulatory compliance is another aspect of the AI that we want to make sure that is also aligning with all the GDPR, CCPA, PIPEDA, or whatever rule depending on the country and applicability. So NIST emphasizes on the govern function. That means why govern matters. Previously, the NIST CSF framework 1.1, there was no govern. So it was starting from the protect, detect, and respond, recover, and then whatever you do, the life cycle. But now govern, it became an important part of it because all the companies, corporates, they need policies and standards and procedures. That means they need a policy to define the rules or the high level rules that are coming from the executives and corporate leaders, that okay, this is what we want to do. We want to make sure, okay, the and for instance, I'm bringing an instance. Enterprise chat GPT is going to be used by the environment, and that is a monitored service. So the users, whatever input that they provide, this is not to arrest or spy on users. And that's where we need the culture. So this is not to spy on anybody. This is to make sure that no one, including yourselves, important data, private data, or personally identifiable information, PI data, is not going to be shared where it's not going to be shared. It shouldn't be shared, right? So establish accountability for AI risks. That means who is accountable. We have to make sure who is deciding, who is making decision against the AI policies. Align the policies. You have to develop, you have to create a paper talking about the AI policies. Okay, this is the proven method. This is the application that the entire organization is allowed to use. For instance, Copilot, for instance, ChatGPT, and that is an enterprise account. You have to have an account, and that account is being monitored. So, or not monitored, whatever is your corporate policy allows for. Or these are the set of applications that are whitelisted by the corporation. The rest is blocked. You can block it, by the systems, or like any type of agents or system that you may have in your organization and firewalls, or you may just leave it to the users. It's up to you. Embed cybersecurity into decision-making processes. That means you have to make sure the cybersecurity is also aligned to the decision-making processes. That means risk-based decisions. They should be made based on the risk magnitude of every single execution or policy against the AI. So again, emphasizing on the key governance policy, it's oversight. That means create an AI governance committee. You have to have people that if in case something went wrong, how you can decide, how you can take an action upon what is being compromised or whatever is done in the environment, and what was the damage. So the impact and all those assessments, they have to be decided after the fact. Sometimes that it's been it happened in the environment. It has to be addressed by a group of people. That is the committee. Assign a chief AI officer or similar rule. That doesn't be like a person. Sometimes people, they start just scaring or panicking that I cannot afford just pay one person to be just governing governing AI, right? But that's not the case. So this role could be taken by the existing, whoever is going to be their director or any type of executive that is taking that position or holding that position. So policies, develop policies, cybersecurity policies, address ethical principle that like fairness and transparency. That means you have to make sure that those policies, fairness, is being delivered all across the organization. You have to create the culture. So the compliance is another thing, that it has to align the those rules for the data privacy and the risk management culture. So the leadership, and they have to make sure the communication and the way that they just deliver and send the message, it has to be consistently be aligned with the cybersecurity policies. So the corporate-wide executives and leaders, they should send a message entirely to the organization about the AI, and they have to build the culture. So IT security policy, the training, the awareness that you provide to the users, a group of users, target users, it has to be building that culture, organizational culture. That means people should not think by AI or monitoring AI or any type of data that you're just monitoring, you're trying to just spy on them. You're trying to protect them. You're trying to just make sure their own private information it's not going to be shared outside of the organization or wherever is not allowed to be. Okay, so on different actually phases, these security controls could be implemented, or the measures, security measures, like development phase. If you are doing development, like any type of coding, or the AI is being deployed to just do any type of manipulation or facilitation or help in the coding process, it has to make sure it has to go through the threat modeling, and it has to go through the processes to make sure if the code is being provided by you, secure coding, software development lifecycle. If not, it has to be scanned. The risk should be assessed, and you have to make sure the channels through which that AI is connected to your pipeline or repository, it's been cleaned and is clear. And you have to make sure always you do the threat modeling. I have another set of videos that they're just talking about the threat modeling and how we do the threat modeling. So threat modeling talks about the architecture, components architecture, and data flows, and how they're protected. Deployment phase, if you want to just deploy the code, you got to validate models and you got to just implement the real-time monitoring, logging and monitoring, and making sure you review all the accesses and whatever is done in the system, and make sure the proper action is being taken whenever there is a risk or there is an incident or threat is detected in the environment. And the maintenance is going to be patching and conducting periodic audits to make sure it's aligning with what the policy and definitions are. The lifecycle security, you have to make sure the data, the model, and the system, including the encryption of the data, both in transit and at rest, is being maintained by the AI tools or tooling. And access controls. So two most important factors for the AI and any type of access or application is access. Make sure the access is being properly handled to the environment, authorization and authentication, and then data while it's sent over the network and when it's at rest or sitting. And the file level encryption is what matters, not the disk level encryption, because disk level encryption sometimes is meaningless. And then model security, use adversarial training to reduce risks. That means training awareness, that plays an important role. And then conduct regular model vulnerability assessments. You have to make sure against all those engines develop material vulnerability assessment, including, if it's applicable, SAS, DAS, detect secrets, or any type of those activities. And then you have to make sure if it's a purchased product, all the integrations, they have to be scanned and they have to be following the rules or protection rules that are defined by the Cybersecurity Policy and standards. And the system security, whatever system that is using the AI is being built upon or is just using the system, you have to make sure that is using a strong authentication. Especially, I'm just emphasizing on this one, admin access to the system is the most important one. Make sure it's been properly handled, MFA protected, recording, those type of activities like PAM or privilege account management, that is being properly applied on those systems. And you have to continuously monitor and check for dependencies to mitigate the supply chain risks. Respond to AI specific incidents. Incident response plan is another topic, but you have to make sure you have a proper, you collect the logs and you monitor the activities, but you have to make sure you have leverage or enough resources and playbooks and runbooks to make sure when an incident strikes, you can handle it properly of any severity, right? So executive reports or just bringing different groups to the incidents, that's something that you have to develop, and the strategies should be developed. And then security awareness workforce. Build the culture. Again, that's I'm emphasizing on this one. Deliver regular training on AI and cybersecurity threats. As much as you just emphasize on these threats, the people get to know, and they would just start thinking that their own personal information might be shared. So the act to just do any type of monitoring on the activities is just there for themselves and to protect the employees and the corporate assets, of course. So again, I mean, AI incident response, just make sure that that is being developed properly. I believe we're just this on error. Sorry, I just had to go back again. So measure and improve. That means you have to develop KPIs, KRIs, metrics to measure. Okay, incident response KPIs, they're just MTTI, mean time to resolve, mean time to just detect these type of activities. How many incidents are performed, are closed out in this duration, in this month? Those are the things that are important. And KRIs, the risks indicators. How many attacks in the environments I received? How many of this type of or specific type of attack, adversary attacks, I've received in the environment? It was any how many detection of the personal information that was detected in the environment was shared. So these are very important. And sometimes there are just repetitive offenders that people, they just want to make sure. Some people are ignoring the policies. You have to make sure they repeat it for offenders that are just repetitively just making mistakes and they're just ignoring the policies. You have to make sure the proper policy, appropriate policy is there to just bring to their management level attention and make sure they're just informed and required actions are to be taken in terms of whatever is there as per policy for the employees that they do not or they do not really comply with the proper policies. And with these, you have to just make sure you're properly handling and just pursuing the AI security. So, just to wrap up, the most important thing that I would like to emphasize, if I want to just summarize the whole thing that we just talked about in this video, I would say you have to make a balance. You have to just know what the use cases in your environment are. Are you using AI for development? Are you using AI for manipulating data? Are you using for legal purposes? Are you using for general purposes? Identify those and make sure the tooling that you deploy or you just purchase or you're just whitelisting to be used in the environment are properly following your organizational policy. And of course, the organizational policy is the first step to make sure that is been defined properly based on the use cases then. And then the risk is being considered, the risk been assessed, and based on the risk, there is an incident response plan, there is a monitoring, there is a logging, and accesses everything, data address in transit are protected properly. And then the actions or policies, they have a procedure, step by step procedure about the actions that are to be taken against violation of those policies or in compliance with those policies. That is what is important actually. And that brings us to the end of this video, and I will just see you in the next one. Thank you very much for listening to this video.